carry my piece of talking, not me.
Kamso, listen to me.
No, you listen. Ever since you married him, I became nobody.
You stopped loving me, Mama, didn't you?
I never stopped.
Stop!
Kamso's story reminds us that misunderstandings can tear a family apart, but a single honest apology can stitch it back together. A mother's love never disappears. Sometimes we're just too hurt to notice it. If this story made you pause for a moment, ask yourself, who is the one person you should call or hug? Today, where in the world are you watching from? Share your location below so Afritalisa TK can see where this story found your heart. And if you want more stories that reach this deep, don't forget to subscribe to Afritalisa TK, because sometimes the greatest lesson lives in the very last line of the story. Adetola lost her husband when Kamso was just 4. That morning, Lagos was jammed as always, bus horns blaring, street vendors calling out their prices, yet inside their small home in Surulere, time simply stopped. The landline rang just as Adetola was tying Kamso's shoelaces for preschool. The little boy giggled, rambling about how his teacher let them color yesterday, unaware that one phone call would split their world forever. The doctor's voice on the other end stuttered, then broke into apologies. A highway crash, a runaway truck. No chance to make it to the hospital. Adetola remembered dropping the phone, hearing the crash as if from miles away. Kamso flinched and tugged at her dress. "Daddy is taking me to school today, right, Mama?" She knelt, embraced him, smelling baby shampoo and the faint sweat on his curly hair. "Daddy has to travel for a while, Kamso. Travel. Will he come back?" She couldn't answer. Her throat tightened until no words would come. The months that followed were a fog of survival. The insurance payout barely covered debts, tuition, and leftover medical bills. Her accounting job vanished after the company collapsed. Lagos kept roaring, but for Adetola, every morning was another uphill climb. She started frying puff-puff and steaming moi-moi to sell to workers near the market. A small pot, a plastic table, low stools. 5-year-old Kamso sat beside her, feet swinging, doing homework between glances at his mother. "Mama, when will we be rich like the neighbors? Every day you finish your work early and help me wrap a few more packs on that day. We get a little richer." She laughed softly, brushing his hair. Lagos rains came without warning, drenching whole batches of food. Some days customers disappeared, and she lost everything she invested. Some nights she patched her son's shoes under flickering light, because the electricity bill was overdue. But Adetola possessed something poverty could never steal, an iron refusal to break. It was in those scorched sun days and rain-soaked evenings that Olumide re-entered her life like a quiet shadow from the past. He had been her husband's driver and assistant, the man who opened doors, carried boxes, drove them to weddings, church, hospitals. The first morning he stood at her tiny stall, dressed in a well-pressed but worn shirt, he said, "Madam, if you need someone to transport goods, I can help. You don't have to pay much." Adetola eyed him, exhausted but proud. "Olumide, I don't want pity." "It's not pity." He shook his head, offering a rare, gentle smile. "I just don't want to see you carry everything alone." She stayed quiet a long time, then nodded. From that day, his rusted car became her delivery truck. He was the first to wake, helping with dough, lifting pans, wiping counters, then driving them home through red-lit traffic at night. Years passed. The food stall became a breakfast cafe, then a lunch spot. One day, she landed a contract to supply meals for an office tower on Victoria Island. The tiny handwritten sign became a branded logo. Boxed lunches printed with her own midnight sketches. Meanwhile, Kamso grew up among the smell of frying oil and customer chatter. He learned to wipe tables, pack orders, and record sales. When customers asked, "Where's your husband?" he watched his mother give the same faint smile. "My husband now is my work." Olumide, passing with a tray, always lowered his gaze, knowing the sentence hid more than it revealed. By the time Kamso entered high school, Adela had an office, staff, accountants, a delivery team. Her name appeared in talks about successful Lagos businesswomen. People saw the SUV, the tailored suits, the confident heels, and concluded, she has everything. But they didn't see the nights she sat alone in the living room, TV buzzing to an empty audience, flipping through old photos of her late husband. They didn't see her soften when Kamso fell asleep over his books. Nor did they see Alumide waiting quietly at a distance for her signature before leaving. Their relationship wasn't thunder, it was water carving stone. Lunches saved for her, clinic trips during illness, silent company during crises. When one contract collapsed, he stayed up till dawn with her, combing ledgers line by line. One late night, only computer glow lighting her tired face, Alumide set ginger tea beside her. Madam, you're human too. Don't forget that. She looked up into eyes that had walked beside her for years, and for the first time realized she wasn't just tired. She was lonely. Her decision to remarry didn't arrive with fireworks, just on an ordinary morning. Kamso was 18, nearly as tall as the doorway, voice deepening, his phone buzzing more for friends and a world beyond her. As he buttoned a fresh shirt for a birthday party, she saw the truth. Soon he would leave, study, build a life of his own. And if she stayed alone, the silence in the house might swallow her whole. When she told him she would marry Alumide, he stayed silent for a long time. If Mama is happy, that's all that matters, he finally said, smiling, though his eyes drifted. Alumide could barely process it. Are you sure, Adela? I'm just a driver. You are the man who walked through my worst days. If anyone deserves to sit with me through the better ones, it's you. No choir, no grand feast, just a simple church wedding, a few old colleagues. Kamso filmed the moment, his throat tight without knowing why. That night, lying in bed staring at the ceiling, he replayed the smile his mother gave Alumide when the priest blessed them. It was warm, but it tugged something else loose inside him. Something sharp, uneasy. He had no word for the feeling. Every time he saw them whispering in the kitchen, laughing over something, he felt as if he was standing outside a picture that once belonged only to him and his mother. She came home later. Work meetings with Uncle Alumide replaced late-night talks. More often he heard, sleep first. Kamso, I still have meetings. He told friends he was fine, happy for her, even believed part of it. But somewhere deep, where even he rarely looked, a small spark flickered, growing day by day. A fear of being replaced. At 19, Kamso burned with the need to prove he was grown. It was that half-boy, half-man age when you think you understand the world, but you've only reached its doorstep. He tried to speak like an adult, walk like one, and sometimes argue with his mother the way a man argues when he hasn't yet learned to control himself. But the life he had always known, the warmth of his mother close at hand, was changing faster than he could grasp. His mother, Mrs. Adela, was in the busiest season of her career. The catering company had just expanded into 2 new districts. Contracts were pouring in. Meetings never seemed to end. Most nights she walked through the door, close to 10 p.m., still in her suit, still carrying files thick with tomorrow's plans. And somewhere deep inside, Kamso began to feel left behind. One afternoon in his newly rented dorm room near campus, he texted her, "Mama, I need extra tuition money this month." Her reply came quickly, yet it chilled him. "Kamso, you need to start managing your own expenses. I can't give you extra every month." He stared at the screen, fingers trembling. Independent? Manage himself? Why couldn't she see he was trying? Why didn't she understand he just needed a little help? He slammed the phone down on the bed, heart pounding, as if someone had slapped his pride. The weeks that followed weren't any easier. Whenever he texted wanting to tell her about class, friends, or simply ask where she was, the replies were always the same. "I'm in a meeting with Uncle Alumide. I'm still at the office. I'll call when I finish." And she did call, but late, voice tired, fading, like someone barely holding herself together. To Kamso, It only confirmed one thing. She spent her energy on work and on Alumide, not on him. One Friday night, Adetula arrived home near 11 p.m. She eased the door open so as not to wake anyone. But Kamso was sitting in the living room, lamplight casting a warm glow across his cheek. He forced a smile. "I thought you forgot I was coming home today." Adetula slipped off her shoes, hung her bag, then walked toward the table. "I'm sorry, the meeting went longer than expected. They want us to revise the entire menu. Another meeting with Uncle Alumide, I guess." Kamso tried to sound casual, but the words came out sharp. Adetula froze. "1 second. 2. Kamso, don't speak as if. But isn't it true? It's always Alumide this, Alumide that. You come late because of him." His voice rose louder than he intended. Adetula closed her eyes briefly, steadying herself. "You know he works for the company. I can't run everything alone, but you could remember you still have a son." He shot to his feet, chair scraping angrily across the floor. Adetula looked at him, tall now, voice deep, yet eyes full of the same hurt as the little boy who once slept in her arms. "Kamso, I have always been here for you." "No, Mama." He shook his head, breath heavy. "I don't feel that anymore." From that day, Kamso began noticing every little thing, each one seeming to prove his fear. She came home late, gives Alumide must be keeping her at the office. He tried to dismiss it, but it kept returning, growing heavier. She didn't cook as often, gives she must want to cook for her new husband, not him. He knew it wasn't fair, but the feeling bit deeper anyway. She enforced stricter money rules, if she must care less than before. He remembered the years she starved herself to buy him textbooks, and now she said no. To him, it wasn't teaching independence. It was distance. Slowly, Kamso's eyes changed when he looked at Alumide, an expression the man didn't deserve. Not because Alumide did anything wrong. He still brought food home for them, still asked about school, still cleaned the house so Adetula wouldn't have to. But that kindness only made Kamso feel more replaced, pushed outside the family picture he once lived inside. And so, an unsteady heart mixed with 19-year-old pride, a dangerous combination. From small misunderstandings, unspoken thoughts, and wounded silence, Kamso began telling himself a different story. A story that wasn't true, but became the only truth he believed. He turned his gentle stepfather into an enemy, an imagined villain his mind created. The table was laid with turkey, mashed potatoes, gravy, the rich aroma floating through the warm air of a house that once felt like Kamso's safest place. Candles flickered along the long dining table, their flames dancing against polished glassware. Outside the window, Thanksgiving night in Lagos sparkled with city lights, but inside Kamso, the sky was murky, heavy enough to crush his chest. He sat twisting his fork, watching his mother smile at Alumide. A soft smile, tired but tender, the kind she hadn't given him in months. Wine blurred his thoughts, turning them thick and dark, drowning logic beneath hurt. Adetula rose, silver knife and fork in hand, carving the golden turkey. "This thigh is really tender," she said warmly. "Perfect for someone who likes strong flavor." Kamso's head snapped up. That was always his piece. Every Thanksgiving since childhood, she saved it for him. But today, a clean slice, gentle. And she placed the best piece onto Alumide's plate. Sound died in the room. Kamso's heart lurched, squeezed tight. He couldn't believe it, and yet he did, instantly, because the accumulated hurt inside him had been waiting for this moment to erupt. "Kamso," his mother asked casually, "would you like more gravy?" Her voice was so normal, as if nothing sacred had just shifted. But to Kamso, it was the final cut, a blade sinking straight into the rawest part of his pride. Heat surged up his throat, wine and anger colliding. He shot to his feet, chair slamming backward. "So I mean nothing to you now? Nothing?" His voice cracked through the room like thunder, tearing open a space once filled with peaceful meals. Adetula froze, knife and fork still in hand. "Kamso, calm down. Don't tell me to be calm, he barked, chest heaving. Ever since you married him, I'm invisible, right? He eats my share, takes your time. He took my mother. His voice broke. The anger was only armor on the deepest fear, the terror of being abandoned again. Alumide rose, palms lifted. Kamso, your mother is exhausted. Please don't raise your voe. Don't call me son. Kamso roared, eyes blazing. Adetola set the knife down, stepping toward him. Baby, listen to me. You are always Pang. No one even saw the moment his hand moved. The turkey plate, the one he barely touched except to shove potatoes aside, flew, slamming into his mother's face. The sound was sharp, cold, cruel. Even Kamso went rigid. Adetola staggered back. A long cut opened across her cheek, dark red, stinging with pain and humiliation. Adetola! Alumide lunged, catching her, hands shaking. Oh my God, Adetola! Look at me. Stay with me. Blood dotted the white tablecloth drop by drop, counting down the collapse of a family. Kamso stumbled back. Then again, what he'd done couldn't be undone. His mother's face, bloodied, broken, disappointed, hit him like a slap to the soul. The room spun. Not from wine, from truth. Mama, he whispered, voice quivering, feet refusing to move. I didn't. Alumide turned, grief deeper than anger in his eyes. Kamso, you need to leave. Right now, the words jolted him. He turned and bolted outside, not daring to look back. The door slammed shut, a sound like the end of 19 years. Cold night air struck his face but couldn't cool the fire in his chest. His heart burned raw, blistering, as if shards of glass were splintering inside him. Thanksgiving was supposed to be a day of gratitude, a day families healed over warm food and gentle embraces. But that year, it became the day Kamso shattered the heart of the woman who gave him life. The next morning, head throbbing, Kamso returned home. Lagos was veiled in a thin mist, pale light stretching over damp streets. The alcohol was gone from his throat, but something far worse clawed at him now, guilt. It sat heavy, like a backpack full of stones he had carried since last night. He stood at the door, hand trembling on the handle. All he could see in his mind was his mother collapsing, blood staining the tablecloth. He had done something no child should ever do. The door was slightly ajar, no lights on. Only a faint glow leaked from the living room. Kamso stepped toward it, but froze at a voice. Alumide's. Soft, but so laden with sorrow it sounded like his heart was speaking. Please, Adetola, don't blame the boy. He is scared of losing you. I know that fear. I lived with it for 17 years. Kamso went still. His hand stiffened on the doorframe. Through the sliver between wall and hinge, he saw his mother lying sideways on the sofa bandage across her cheek, eyes swollen as if she hadn't slept. Alumide sat beside her, bowed like a man carrying a long-kept burden. Adetola whispered, voice raw, "You've stayed with me. Since he died, since I rebuilt everything, you never left." I don't know how to make Kamso understand that. Alumide shook his head. He doesn't need to understand. I understand him. He's a boy trying to act grown. Young men are terrified that one day their mother won't put them first anymore. He paused, exhaling a weight he seemed to have held for years. I saw your face the day you collapsed beside your husband's hospital bed. From that moment, I made a promise to do whatever it took to protect you and that child. Kamso felt his heart tighten. Since when? His mother asked quietly. Alumide's voice dissolved into the room. 17 years ago. Long before Kamso could remember his father's face. I watched you struggle with bills, watched you walk through sun and rain just to sell trays of moi. I watched you fall asleep at the kitchen table, still holding that baby so he wouldn't wake. His voice faltered, but he pressed on. I watched you survive grief, build an empire, and raise him alone. I never wanted to replace his father. All I wanted was to protect you both. Even when you never noticed. Each word struck Kamso like a hammer. His whole body trembled, not from cold, but because truth was slipping into the cracks of his heart. In his memories, Olumide had always been the extra body in the house, someone behind the scenes, someone who never intruded. But now, fragments began rearranging into clarity. When he was 7 and went into severe peanut shock at a school party, it was Olumide who carried him to the car, blasting through red lights to reach the hospital. During a Lagos downpour when his mother worked late, Kamso remembered a drenched figure waiting at the school gate, holding a torn umbrella until the boy was safely inside the car. On graduation day, when he fumbled with his tie in front of the mirror, his mother busy signing contracts, Olumide walked in and murmured, "Hold still, let me try." He tied it in seconds, patting Kamso's shoulder like a father would. And there were hundreds of moments he had overlooked or forgotten. The man who always kept an extra jacket in the car because he feared the boy catching cold. The one who paid out of his own pocket to fix Kamso's old bicycle when his mother couldn't. The one who apologized to teachers on Kamso's behalf when he got into fights, even though Kamso was the one at fault. The one who saved warm food for mother and son, eating whatever was left. But most of all, the one who always put Kamso's safety above everything else. Kamso couldn't take it anymore. His chest hurt as if someone were squeezing it from the inside. Every word Olumide had spoken felt like another blade, but this time it wasn't stabbing the man he had hated. It was cutting through him. If he stayed behind this door one more second, he would be more cowardly than the wound he left on his mother's face. He pushed the door open. The hinge creaked softly. Both of them turned. His mother's face was swollen, one cheek wrapped in a white bandage, traces of dried blood still visible against her tired brown skin. The sight struck Kamso harder than any punch he'd ever taken. Every bruise, every strip of adhesive tape, felt like 1,000 knives twisting into his chest. For a moment, no one spoke. Only the ticking of the wall clock filled the room slow, heavy, counting the beats of regret. "Mama!" His voice was hoarse, like he had climbed a mountain made of stone. His knees gave out. Before he could think, he was already kneeling in the middle of the living room, on the carpet his mother always scolded him for dirtying with his shoes. "Mama," he repeated, vision blurring with hot tears. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." Adetola just sat there, her hand frozen mid-air. Her eyes trembled, holding not just physical pain, but the deeper ache every mother feels when hurt by the child she carried. Kamso swallowed hard, forcing each word out like confessions before the court of his own conscience. "I thought you didn't love me anymore," he whispered, voice cracking. "I thought, when you married him, I wasn't first anymore. I thought he took you away from me. I was wrong. I was so wrong." Every admission fell to the floor like shards of a pride he'd clung to for 19 years. "Every time you worked late, I blamed him. Every time you said no to money, I thought you didn't care. I was angry. But the truth is," he choked, inhaled sharply, "I was just scared. Scared of being alone again." A tear fell on Kamso's hand. Not his. Adetola had stood at some point. Now she stood before him, looking down at the boy who once clung to her legs crying for candy, now taller than her by half a head, yet trembling like a child lost in a market. She knelt, her knees cracking from years spent in kitchens, and pulled him into her arms. The cut on her cheek burned, but she held tighter, as if loosening her grip would let him fall out of her world. "You are my only child," she said, each word firm and clear. "And nothing in this world can change that." Kamso's chest split open. He'd buried his face in her shoulder and cried. No pride, no 19-year-old toughness left. Only a boy who had gone too far and was trying to find his way back. "I don't deserve your forgiveness," he choked. "I hurt you. I hit you." Adetola tightened her arms around him. "You are my son. I have the right to scold you, to teach you, but I do not have the right to abandon you. Even when you do the worst, I am still your mother." Kamso tried to speak, but the words tangled in his throat. Another hand rested gently on his shoulder. Warm, steady, never forceful. He looked up. Alumide stood there, eyes red with fatigue, but holding no anger. No storm. Only the quiet of a man who has known loss long enough to understand that anger only breaks what is already fragile. "Uncle," Kamso whispered, then corrected himself in a voice barely audible. "Sir, I don't know how to ask for your forgiveness." Alumide studied him for a long moment, weighing every word. Then he gave Kamso's shoulder a small, grounding squeeze, not too hard, not too soft, just enough to tell him he wasn't being pushed away. "I'm not here to compete with you, Kamso," he said softly. "I'm here because I love your mother. And because I care about you. I never wanted to take her from you. I only wanted to make sure neither of you ever had to walk through pain alone again." Kamso bowed his head, tears dripping onto the hand resting on his shoulder. "I treated you like you were the enemy," he confessed. "But last night, I realized the only enemy was inside me." Alumide smiled faintly sad, but warm. "Then tonight, maybe we stop fighting that enemy. Together, in that small room, beneath the faint scent of antiseptic, something began to mend. Not just the skin on a Daedalus cheek, but the invisible threads that bound the three of them. No music, no spotlight. Just a mother holding her son, and a man standing behind them, quietly acting as the shield against the wind." Alumide's hand remained on Kamso's shoulder, not in anger, not in judgment, but in the simple, steadfast tenderness of a man who had always been there to protect him. Kamso took responsibility for what he had done. No apology could erase the wound on his mother's face, and no amount of tears could lighten the weight crushing his chest. But he began where anyone must begin after failing deeply, by accepting the consequences. At his mother's and Alumide's urging, he enrolled in a youth counseling program. During the first session, he sat small in a fabric armchair, leg bouncing like a child called to the front of the class. The counselor asked, "Do you know why you're here?" Kamso drew a long breath. "Because I don't know how to handle my emotions. And I hurt the person who matters most to me." It was the first time he had ever said it aloud. And when he did, his heart felt hollow but lighter than before. In the weeks that followed, Kamso learned to identify anger, understand what triggered it, and find ways to redirect it instead of exploding. He began journaling, writing down moments when he felt abandoned, wounded, or doubtful of his mother's love. Slowly, he recognized something he had never admitted clearly. He wasn't angry at his mother. He was angry at his own fear. Meanwhile, at Alumide's suggestion, he volunteered at a community center. There, he tutored street kids, teaching them to read, to do homework, to play basketball. The children clung to him, asking endless questions. One boy looked up and asked, "Brother Kamso, does my mom love me? Why doesn't she come home much?" The question froze him. He looked into the child's eyes, eyes that had once been his own. He crouched beside the boy, resting a gentle hand on his shoulder. "Sometimes adults get busy, but it doesn't mean they don't love you." And in that moment, he realized he was speaking to his younger self. During later family dinners, an unspoken ritual took shape. Everyone knew who would hold the carving knife now. Kamso stood, his hands steadier than last year. He carved the crispy golden thigh without hesitation, without waiting for his mother to do it first. One piece for his mother, placed gently on her plate with quiet respect. One piece for Alumide, who always nodded with a warm, subdued smile. Only then did he serve himself. Each time, Adedala looked at him with overflowing affection, not as a child she needed to protect, but as the young man learning to protect the family in return. As for Alumide, he didn't say much. He simply watched in silence, letting Kamso decide where he belonged, not as a rival, but as a real member of the home. One evening, after dinner, they sat out on the porch together. The Lagos breeze drifted through, carrying the smell of damp wood and familiar traffic. Streetlights cast a soft gold across the steps, a rare pocket of peace. Kamso glanced at Alumide, who was polishing his old glasses, the same pair he'd worn since driving for Kamso as father. Kamso hesitated, then spoke. Uncle, no Alumide. There's something I want to say. The man looked up, waiting. Kamso inhaled, as if preparing to leap off the cliff of his own pride. His voice was low, slow, steady. I don't just have one father, I have two. One who gave me life, and one who helped me grow. Silence lingered, not awkward, but heavy and sacred, like truth finally reaching the place someone had long tried to hide. Adela lifted a hand to her mouth, tears spilling faster than she could stop them. Alumide set his cleaning cloth on the table, studying Kamso for a long moment. His eyes shimmered, not from pain, but from the arrival of a moment he never believed he would live to hear. Then he smiled, a soft, warm, deeply proud smile, the kind Kamso had never seen on him before.